Good Chodesh, everybody. Sorry, I'm a bit tardy. Um, anyway, it's still Rosh Chodesh according to Rabbeinu Tam. So let's open up with the Dvar Torah about Chodesh Tammuz, the Indian of Chodesh Tammuz, and this will also be repeated very much. Let me announce right now that Be'ezras Hashem, we are going to put out a 3-week reader for 3 weeks. That'll be released hopefully before Shavas Tammuz. So some of these ideas may be recapped there, but maybe not. We're talking about Rosh Chodesh Tammuz. But look out for the reader. The only reason why the hopeful reason why the reader should not be released is that Mashiach comes. And then 3 weeks will turn to a time of joy. So we really hope for that wonderful, wonderful reason to cancel the reader, because we want the 3 weeks to be the happiest time of the year. But sadly, as of a moment ago, Mashiach has not come yet. We wait for him every day. So let's talk about Chodesh Tammuz as it is now. And how it ties into, unfortunately, all too perfectly, what's going on in the world around us. The Sefer Yetzirah says that the power that reigns in the month of Tammuz is Himlich Os Ches B'Re'iyah. Right? Hashem uses the letter Ches, with the power of sight. Right? So to explain this, the Beis Yaakov from Ishbitza points out that in the laws of how to write a ches, how a ches ought to be ideally, the Gemara Menachos says the ches, if anyone's had an aliyah and saw how it's written in a Torah scroll, knows that the roof of the ches is, it's a pointy roof. It's a triangle, it comes to a point. Chatre legage, you have to dig out the roof, right? Elevated roof, right? So between the two posts of the ches, there should be not a straight line. B'di'evad, if it's a straight line, it's kosher, but it should be, a point. And the Gemara says that it's a sign that ches should be chai, live. Chai hu b'rum Hashem is alive in the height of the world. Hashem is alive and well, but on high, meaning to say, he's not revealed on earth. I mean, God is everywhere, but he's not revealed everywhere. He is revealed, in the Rumo Shel Olam, right? Higher planes of realities where he's revealed, even though he's everywhere. Chai hu b'rumo shel, he's alive, and everyone could see it, only b'rumo shel Olam, right? We can't see it here on earth. He's here, but he's hidden here, right? And that's what means re'iyah, sight, right? Everyone knows the famous halacha, that we have by Sukkah and Ner Chanukah, right? Actually, it's and by Eruv, it has to be under 20 amos, right? By the Chazon Ish standards, it'll be under 40 feet, right? Not a crazy high altitude at all, but it has to be beneath that altitude, because above there, lo shalta be'ena, people don't look up that high. So you have to be aware of the schach to know that you're in a sukkah. You have to see the Ner Chanukah for Persumei Nisa, and also on Shabbos, the Eruv, you should be aware that it's that you're within the confines of an Eruv. You have to be aware of it, right? Be aware of being in it. Be aware that you're leaving it, right? So and Hakadosh Baruch Hu is Berumo Shel Olam, so we don't see him. Os Ches B'Re'iyah says the Beis Yaakov from Ishbitza, gives the whole unique nature of this month and why it was a challenging month since the beginning of time. Right? We, by no coincidence, we just read Parshat Shlach. And it's so apropos that we read Parsha Shlach every year, roughly about the time of Rosh Chodesh Tammuz. This past Shabbos, we benched Rosh Chodesh Tammuz on Shlach because Tammuz, the first of Tammuz, is basically when the Meragibs embarked on their journey, right? They were traveling throughout the month of Tammuz, and they came back on Tisha B'Av. So the month of Tammuz is was a solid 30 out of the 40 days, right? And what did they do? What did we read about in the parsha? You could see it just from reading the psukim, even without Rashi. Even without Rashi, they say V'ra'inu, and they saw the big frightening things. They saw the giants. They saw the mutant fruits that they said were abnormally large, right? And then Rashi adds on, that they saw a lot of, Rashi explained the psukim that might be a little bit cryptic on the matter. They saw a lot of funerals, right? They saw a lot of stuff that scared them, but they saw a lot of stuff without realizing, right? Because they only saw the surface. They weren't looking upwards, right? Like, let's take the greatest example. They saw a lot of funerals. So Rashi explains, that that was for their own benefit, that people would be busy with the funerals. They wouldn't pay much attention to the spies that were in their midst, right? So it was done for their own benefit. So now they, interpreted those visuals, those optics, as that Israel is a place where people, a lot of people die. Must be a plague there or something. Right. They saw the huge fruit, and the huge people as there are mutants here, right? And they realized that that shows that Israel is full of blessing if people grow so big and the fruits grow so big, right? And they're being afraid of the giants, right? They forgot that there's God that took them out of Egypt, but God is Chayhu Barumo Shel Olam. He lives, meaning you could see him alive and well in heaven. You don't see him on earth, even though he's everywhere, right? They missed seeing God and God's hand in all of it because he's Chai Barumo Shel Olam, right? He is seen to be the living God in heaven. He is not seen on earth, even as equally on earth as he is in heaven. He's everywhere, right? He's beyond space, right? But you only see him, Barumo Shel Olam. So that's Os Ches B'Re'iyah, right? So there's an amazing thing. They could have easily interpreted the optics that they were having positively, but they didn't, because what would have made it obvious, as in seeing the hand of Hashem, that's hidden. That's Barumo Shel Olam. That's on high, and they weren't looking up. They were looking down at the ground. They were looking at society. They weren't looking upwards to see the hand of God. So that's the letter Chester. God is Chai Barumo Shel Olam, like the roof of the Chet, right? Right. He's above the two posts of the Chet that look like a Zion. The two posts look like a Zion, which represent the seven attributes of nature. That's the problem. We see nature. We don't see God, who is guiding nature. We see God, God is revealed in the supernatural, the heavenly, not in the seven attributes of the earthly. That's the challenge. And and even in the best of times, the month of Tammuz presents this challenge, right? The Meragim faced that challenge in going in the land of Israel, right? Now, even in the best of times, like if you live in the northern hemisphere, so Tammuz ushers in the summer, right? So from Pesach, things started growing, right? Pesach is the month of the Aviv, the month of the spring, right, where things begin to blossom. By Tammuz, which is already a summer month, you've been bringing in crops. Oh man, you're seeing all the fields are full. The fields are full, right? Shavuos just was, just passed, which is Chag HaKatzir, the harvest festival. So Tammuz comes, just a few weeks after Shavuos. You see your fields are full of produce. You have even more stuff still growing, right? So you look at all, so you look at, all your produce and you give yourself a pat on the back for a job well done. You forget about God, who's brutal, that gave you all that blessing. That's always been the challenge of Tammuz, because something else happened on Shivat or Tammuz per se, right? Early on in our history, right? The day before, right? The Jewish people had the wrong Vayaram Kiboshesh Moshe. They saw that Moshe is tarrying by their count. He should have been back already. And the Pasuk refers to it as Vayar, it saw. So Rashi is clearly bothered by it. It says that the angel of death projected some type of image of like a coffin in heaven. It means their eyes were playing tricks on them. Because the eyes, as objective as seeing is, as they say, seeing is believing, it still needs to be interpreted. You have to process it correctly. So there, what they were seeing, they have to, whatever Satan was projecting, he should have reasoned it's only an illusion. We're looking at an illusion. Moshe is not meant to be back. They weren't processing the optics correctly. Right? Because again, how Hashem is really in charge and Hashem's agenda is always being fulfilled, right? That's Baruch Hashem, and the Re'iyah only sees eye level and downwards. We don't tend to look up. As we explained at the beginning of tonight's session. So here's an amazing thing, right? That it could be explained based on this theme. Anyone who davens Nusach Sfard knows, because it's printed in most Siddur, not all, but most. So I shouldn't say everyone, but many people daven Sfard are aware, right, that on every Rosh Chodesh for the Musaf of Mekadosh Yisrael Rosh Chodeshim, right, for every month there's a different permutation of the name Yud K Vav K. If you can work this out on a piece of paper, but don't write it out because you don't want to write out the divine names for nothing. But you could, so I don't mean that literally work on a piece of paper, but work it out in your head, right? There are 12 different permutations. It's not 16. You would think it should be 16, 4 times 4, but 2 of the letters are the same. So trust me on this, it's exactly 12. Because there's twice the letter Hey. Right, so there's 12 different permutations, of working with those 4 letters, of which 2 are the same. So the one that's parallel to the month of Tammuz is Hey Vav Hey Yud. The name Yud K Vav, they spelled backwards, exactly backwards. Hey Vav Hey Yud. The name exactly backwards. Right? And there's something amazing about that, right? It's very easy to see something backwards, right? If you're looking at it from the wrong angle, right? Sometimes, just seeing it from the wrong angle, gives you the whole wrong perspective on everything. So, which was the challenge of the month of Tammuz, like we explained, but it goes deeper than that. So the Ari HaKadosh explains that each one of those permutations of the name of Yud K Vav K comes from a pasuk. It's encoded in a pasuk. Where this name of Yud K Vav K spelled backwards, Hey Vav Hey Yud, where it's alluded to is a pasuk in Megillas Esther. Haman said that pasuk. It's from the ending letters of Zeh Eineno Shaveh Li. The last letters of each one of those words is Hey Vav Hey Yud. When Haman says everything is worthless to me, when did Haman say that? In what context? He had just left the first, banquet, a drinking party, with Achashverosh and Esther. Walked out of there all high on himself. He's the prime minister of Persia, and the queen seems to have eyes for him. What he really thought. So it looks like, he might soon be king also. That'll be prime minister, top of the world. He sees Mordechai, and Mordechai won't bow down. And he had already decreed death on all the Jews. He had already, for just 12 months later, less, for Adar. This was in Nisan, right? This was during the days of Pesach. They was called to this drinking party, and for the next Adar, the extermination papers were already signed. The decree was already signed. It's like, so Mordechai, he and his whole people only have another 11, 12 months to live, right? And he says, still, he just didn't bow to me. Everything's worthless to me, as he explains to Zeresh. I've got great kids, and I got wealth, and I got power, and the queen loves me also, it seems. And all this is worthless to me when this Jew doesn't get up for me. He's crazy, right? He's got the wrong perspective. He should be concentrating on the good, not on the one Jew who only has 11 months to live, right? Not bowing to him. He says, because that one Jew who has only 11 months to live doesn't bow to me, everything's worthless to me. Terrible, mistaken perspective. Now, here's the amazing thing, right? What does his wife and his advisors say to him? You're right. There's no other way except to kill Mordechai. Go back to the king and tell him to put him on the gallows. Right? Everyone's sick, right? They should be, if he's sick, right, that he should be concentrating on the 99.99999% good that he has. And he shouldn't care that a Jew has 11 months to live. It's not bowing to him. But if he's sick, why is everyone around him sick also? It says, you're right. You got to take Mordechai down like a George Washington monument. Got to take him down. You won't be happy otherwise. I'm familiar. Everyone's sick. Everyone's got the wrong perspective, right? Everyone's looking at everything backwards. Instead of concentrating on how good they have it, they're concentrating on that one minuscule thing that they don't have. Right? Sick. Totally sick. That's the problem that's represented by Tammuz. Bad perspective. Yeah, you're looking, you're seeing. Seeing is believing, but you're only focusing on what you don't have, not on what you do have. You're looking at things backwards, like the divine name spoke backwards. See everything backwards. Yeah, you're looking, you're seeing, but you're looking at it backwards. Right? The problem of loss of perspective. Right? And that loss of perspective caused us, Tisha B'Av ultimately. It started with Tammuz. It ended with Tisha B'Av, like Bein HaMetzarim starts with Shivos Taz and ends with Tisha B'Av. Right, Tammuz leads it up, and I don't want to ruin and give away all the material for my reader that I'm intending on publishing, although I hope, like I said before, that I don't publish it. The 3 Weeks reader should not come out because Mashiach should come beforehand, right, and make all that sad Torah obsolete, and the whole thing should flip, like in the days of Purim. Everything flipped for the good, and Haman's determination to put Mordechai on the gallows backfired on him, and he got hung on those gallows. And that's what's supposed to happen. It's like it happened by Purim. That's exactly what's supposed to happen to the 3-week period. There's bad times that should flip. We hope it should be flipped. But in the meantime, in analyzing where it starts from, and it starts from Tammuz, it's from a mistaken perspective. Looking at things the wrong way. Looking at the little minuscule thing that's wrong as opposed to everything that's right. Looking at something that's maybe not even a real problem at all, like the Jews thought Moshe must have died in heaven, right? Because he didn't come back when that wasn't even a problem at all. But they were focused on that doubt. They were tunnel vision on that doubt that they had that threw off everything. And they made the golden calf, and the luchos got broken. So they were suffering from until this day. Right? The loss of perspective. That the challenge of Tammuz per se, what the challenge of Av is, we'll discuss closer to the time. Should, God forbid, Mashiach not be here, and it should be applicable to speak about. It'll come out in the reader, right? But a challenge for Tammuz, that still is the case, because last I heard, check the news before we started this, Mashiach has not come yet, and we really should be davening for Mashiach badly. We always need him, and we should always be missing him. But man, do we need him badly for the reasons that I'm about to lay out. What is going on now in our days? What are we facing? Right? Crooked perspective. Horrible, crooked perspective. Right? We spoke already, in this forum, and as everything that we spoke about ever since COVID-19 hit, right, has been revolving on this theme, right? Our perspective is so totally warped. Now this has become particularly accentuated right now with what's happening with the social unrest in our country. No one, condones the murder of George Floyd. No one. He was already subdued, meaning if the facts are as they seem, again, Ra'ia, and maybe the videotape that went viral is not the whole story, but if, let's just say it is, just for the purposes of discussion. It's something that the judge and jury have decided. No one condones what happened. No one. No one. Right? And those cops have to be tried and prosecuted to the fullest extent of the law. Right? But it immediately devolved into cops are killers, defund the police, insanity. And this Black Lives movement, which is a cover, they use Black Lives for political gain, right? Went rampant, not just with the defund and defund and disassemble the police, which God forbid will be total chaos, right? Right, but they're not really addressing the real problems. They care about Black lives. Thousands upon thousands of Blacks are killed by other Blacks all year long, particularly in Chicago. They don't care about Black. They use Black lives for political gain, right? And the country is, that skewed perspective. I actually believe Black Lives Matter people know what they're doing. I think they know the leadership, the ones who make the big money and absorb all those heavy donations into their bank accounts. I'd like to meet the Black person actually ever helped by them, or did they paid off his mortgage, or he got him out of debt. I'd like to meet that guy. Right? I only believe that conservative groups do that. Right. But the ones who are absorbing the money are like the Yetzer, like the Satan that projected the image of Moshe's coffin. But the people go for it. They're like the Meraglim that at one point even started saying even worse. They knew that they were lying, but the people went for that mistaken perspective. Right? They sold people on that mistaken perspective. Tunnel vision. Focus on George Floyd, right? To the exclusion of all the good the cops do, to the exclusion of the real problem. If you care about Black lives, do something about crime, which involves more cops, right? Do something about crime, right? Uh, and you see that they're just taking advantage of that fake perspective that America systemically racist. America is the greatest place on the world to live. No African would rather stay in Africa than live in this great country. None. We're not perfect. And slavery was horrendous and horrible. But America still currently is the greatest country on earth to live in. And no Black person would rather live anywhere else. We know that. We're going to get you to focus on don't have the Haman perspective, but it's not perfect. And because it's not perfect, I'm going to burn the whole thing down. Nothing kol zeh eineno shavim. Right? Now it puts us in a difficult situation because, the American people in general and the Jewish people in particular are a compassionate people. And when a person is in pain, whether real or imagined, we try to respond compassionately. But the problem is that, this victimhood, which sadly needs to be healed by education, not by reparations and not by surrendering the country and not by allowing us to be overrun, but also education them to appreciate what they have and to make them aware that when people remind them of the troubled history, it's just to take advantage of them, to use their victimhood for their gain. Right? They need to be educated just as to A, how they're being manipulated, and B, in general, to increase their advancement in society, is that they need good schools. The liberals lock them in these failing government schools. They need good, strong families, as opposed to the liberals, and part of the Black Lives Matters manifesto, right? That there shouldn't be a nuclear family. There shouldn't be a father in home. Who needs fathers? That's the problem, right? But that's a victimhood that they're riding, and it's all just to take power. And you think it's sick. How is it that the whole Democratic Party, sadly, there's a lot of Jews there, how is it, that they are so self-destructive that for the sake of taking power, they'll just burn the whole country down and put it in a position that it can't do it for long either, just so they can be in power. Well, who also acts this way? The whole Satan, the Sitra Achra. Sitra Achra is not looking for a good world order. That's he balonies you, the Yetzer Hara. Even he tells you, God and the Torah, it's only looking out for your soul. It's not looking out for your body. It's constraining you. It's restraining you. You think the Yetzer Hara cares about your financial well-being or your health? Well, he wants you to eat all the garbage food. He wants you to take drugs. He wants you to cheat on your wife. That ruins your family, right? He wants you to watch pornography. That ruins a lot of things. He's not looking out for you. He's not looking out for you in any way, shape, or form. But he'll tell you you're repressed and you're oppressed and you're fettered. He rides that just so he could be in control. And he doesn't care about anything else. He wants to take control and rest. As it were, God created him, for his purpose of tempting us. But he lost perspective himself and thinks he could overthrow God, even though that's not true. He himself is a little bit, the Ramchal writes that he is deluded, that he might imagine that maybe it's possible for him to dispose of God. But in reality, he can't, because God himself created him for this function. But he makes a mistake, and he doesn't. Although Chazal write elsewhere that the Satan does do his job just to serve the Creator, and there's different Lashonos in Chazal. Not clear whether Satan is just doing his job, or if he thinks he can overthrow God. But even like the Lashon Chazal, that Satan v'pnina l'shem shamayim niskavnu, even like that he knows he's working for God, but that's his job, to present himself as an alternative and to try to rip down everything, take control of you, to rip down everything. Of course, he manipulates you and says the way you are is oppressed and repressed and subdued, right? But it's just for the purpose of taking control. And there's a nation like that, the Amalekim, right? Amalek, like Haman, the main thing is to kill the Jews. The main thing is to kill the Jews, and he's not happy just having a good life. He has to take down God's people, because taking down God's people is to win the war against God, because we represent Hashem in the world. Because again, God is only revealed in heaven. Who reveals God in earth? Who pierces the illusion of God being invisible here? Us, the Jewish people. We're the ones who make God visible here. We build a Beis Hamikdash on earth in the land of Israel. Liros es Hashem, to see the face of Hashem. Without the Beis Hamikdash, you only see God in heaven. We're the ones who are the countermeasure of Chayu Baruma Shalom, to the problem that God is only revealed in heaven and not revealed on earth. The countermeasure is the Jewish people. We are the light unto nations, the light unto nations, the one who illuminate the nations to see Hashem on earth. Right? We're the antidote to the Talmud's challenge. That's why Amalek wants to destroy us. Because to destroy the Jewish people is to destroy God on earth. Right? You know, you see that that's their intention. Now Black Lives Matter wants to take down Yoshka, right? Wants to take down the Christian deity. That's also white supremacist. The war on God. If he could get away with that, he could certainly get away with burning the shuls. Don't you understand that's what's coming next? Right? It's time to wake up. It's time to demand from our Jewish leaders to wake up. Forget about Schumer and Engel and Nadler. They sold their souls out already. You know who Amalek is today? So Amalek is willing to do anything just to destroy the Jewish people, including seek his own destruction in the process. Like the very first time the Amalekim attacked us, you know, when we were hot, literally, because we had just gone through Yetzias Rayim and Kriyas Yamsuf, so Chazal likened his attacking us as like a guy jumping into the hot bath. You know, he wanted to make a statement. So even though he got burned and Amalek got burned, we kicked his butt, right? But he cooled us off in the face of nations of the world. And they're willing to sacrifice everything for that feeling that they knocked down the Jewish people, that feeling of being in control. You defeat the Jewish people, you feel like you defeated God. You know, it cost you everything. Sickness. But that sickness is fueled by the Yetzer Hara. That's the Yetzer Hara's job. You know, to get people, Yetzer Hara's job is not to get you to live a good life, to, you know, fool you with promises of a good life, to manipulate you, to be willing to lose everything, including your physical well-being, right, for the sake of rebelling against God. We've said over and over again, the presence of God in the world is law and order. When God is withdrawn from the world, it's chaos. They say defund the police, dismantle the police, restrain the police. It's no coincidence. And that same people are just saying now even religious symbols have to go, let alone symbols of America, America being the greatest country of law and order. And I'm not defending the Confederacy, but you know, it was not after George Washington, Thomas Jefferson, and Andrew Jackson, and Theodore Roosevelt also. It's against the whole concept of law and order. They use the racism as an excuse to tear everything down. It's about tearing everything down. Right? You know, so the leftists and the Democratic Party is the modern day Amalek. It's so sad that so many good Jewish souls are stuck there because they're trapped in that perspective trap. The groupthink really affects your eyes. It affects your perspective. Right? The Meraglim affected the perspective of the Jewish people. The Erev Rav was only 3,000 people, affected the perspective of the Jewish people. And they went on. They sat back and allowed them to make the golden calf. So they didn't rip down monuments. They made one. They made an idol. Right? Same thing, just in reverse. It's like, you know, they were adamant about their perspective, and people, well, they seem very sure of themselves, so we better stay out of their way. That's what's happening again. And in fact, that's happening now with the month of Tammuz and Tisha B'Av right around the corner, where this time period is not exactly the time period, you know, which is in our favor. If there are times that, you know, that are more connected to what's right about the world and times that are more connected to what's wrong with the world, viewing time like another dimension, like Einstein taught us, it's space-time, right? So we know Tishrei, Nisan, you know, those are the times that are parallel to everything that's right with the world, you know, with the Jewish people and the Torah, you know, Yetzias Mitzrayim, Matan Torah. Tammuz and Av is the time periods that are parallel to everything that's wrong with the world. You know, it's the time that's parallel to the aspects of space that are contaminated, that need repair, that are breached. So we should be scared as hell that this is happening now in the time of Tammuz and Av. We should be scared as hell that it's happening anytime, let alone now where we know that time, our mazel is not at its strongest now, which means we're going to have to work much harder to offset this. So what I want to say, I have to sort of reiterate. I warned already for a while, for years, that the next world war that we're witnessing now, erupt, is not going to be a war between countries. It's going to be an international civil war between left and right. And these are times when I hate to be right. Yeah. Times, when you could pat, I don't pat myself on the back for being right. I'm really sorry that I'm right. That we're seeing it in this country, and we see it spreading to other countries. In England, protesting for George Floyd, it's all over the world. It's going to be a right versus left. The next world war, that'll be the deadliest world war in our history, and hopefully the last war in our history. It's going to be an international civil war. Countries are going to rip each other up from the inside. Right? There'll be one exception, the Islamic world. See, Black Lives Matter is not doing anything about Islam. They're not doing any Islam bashing. Isn't that interesting? Muhammad was a slave owner. No one violated human rights more than Muhammad, and the Muslims throughout the. But they're not going to, because they got something good going, with the Palestinians. They got something good going with Ilhan Omar and Rashida Tlaib. Right? You see, it's the hypocrisy that we've seen over and over again. Me Too movement. They were riding that as a way of tearing down people, but all of a sudden stopped when it hit Joe Biden. And because Joe Biden survived, perhaps Jimmy Kimmel will survive it also, because they already let it go with Joe. Right? Who himself, isn't it crazy? That itself proves, how evil their agenda is. They want to make a senile man president, a man who's clearly senile, undeniably senile. Why? Because they'll control him, right? You see that there's no truth or justice there. It's all about control. And a senile guy, whatever he's able to actually pronounce off his script or his teleprompter, right? It's perfect. Senile man is the best way to get control, right? It's totally frightening and scary. And this has to do with nothing we said. We never did proper tshuva for the COVID-19 virus. The rabbis were, and one can't blame them because maybe the public just can't hold too many messages at once. The rabbis were putting the emphasis on stay home, right? Because Judaism values life. Stay home, don't go to shul, right? Don't go to yeshiva. Daven at home, learn at home. Meantime, the shuls were empty and the yeshivas were empty. And as Rav Gamaliel Rabinovich, the famous Kabbalist Shazayim, pointed out, when we leave the sukkah because of rain, right? We feel terrible. God doesn't want us. How should we feel if God doesn't want us in shul? God doesn't want us in yeshiva. Right? It's like another exile. It's really horrible. And there was not, from what I see in any Jewish media, anything, we have to do tshuva. We have to do tshuva. And I said this in this forum, right? Maybe social distancing is to teach us that when we used to get together, it wasn't good. It was not a good mix. Maybe we're looking too much at the women by the social gatherings. Were we talking Lashon Hara? Were we talking in shul instead of davening in shul? Right? We have to really examine, right? Why, and think, being thrown out of shul, social distancing, what's that parallel to? And I warned, right? In Telchoimi Kerry, Bahamas Kerry, if we're going to say, well, plagues happen, the Chinese, they didn't watch the Kung Flu. Yeah, we're going to say because the president's right. China should take the blame, right? But it doesn't change the fact that China, this calamity would not have struck so hard If we would have been, better in our Torah and mitzvahs, we have to make a cheshbon nefesh, right? Why this happened, right? And there was not enough of that, if there was any at all. I heard of Gamliel Rabinovich. I didn't hear anyone else. Like, it should have been like, the rabbis, they're trying to cheer us up and keep us simcha, but there was not enough of the other message, like a sick person, right? You want to keep his spirits high because depression is the worst thing and it'll hurt his immune system. But at the same time, you got to tell him, medicine, buddy. You got to take on this health regimen and you got to take your medicine. It's like walking and chewing gum, And there was not enough of, there's plenty of the chewing gum, the walking to get back into health. That there wasn't, right? Certainly not enough, because we see that the COVID-19 is still here. It's having its second wave, and particularly in Eretz Yisrael, right? And without the COVID-19 going away, and it was here for 7 weeks and more, then after 7 weeks of it, we get, George Floyd, and the whole thing. It's not George Floyd anymore. That was just the excuse they were looking for, to unleash their wrath on all law and order and all that is good. And the Democrats left us 100% complicit. All right? So we have to call to do tshuva. But here's the deeper thing. Whatever is wrong, we said this many times, I'll say it again. Whatever's wrong with the world is a mirror held up that we're supposed to take it. And Hashem holds it up as a mirror to say this is what's wrong with us, the Jewish people. Because no one controls world events more than the Jewish people. We're God's people. And we have 613 mitzvahs that have powerful cosmic repercussions. For the good, when we keep the mitzvahs, and for the bad, when we don't. We're the ones who are more responsible from a spiritual perspective, from a metaphysically, which is above the physical. We're the ones who are responsible for everything that's going on. So if the world has a sick, skewed perspective that's running amok, it's because we do. We say the left is all about narrative and not about real results. So how about us? How about us? We talk about learning Torah. How much Torah do we really learn? How much of what we learn do we remember, or do we just read it half asleep? Right? We talk a great deal about mitzvahs. How many mitzvahs do we really do? Are we also perhaps stuck in the world of narrative? A lot of Jewish groups, so they have their narrative. We're pro Aliyah. We are pro Torah learning. Huh? And how many people actually do? It's the narrative. It's where you identity politics. Are we guilty of that? We have to ask ourselves. Because if it's only because of what we do that the world functions accordingly. In the way that we function, the world functions. Right? Anything that's wrong with the world is surely wrong with the Jewish people on some level. Right? Do we play identity politics? That you're a good guy because you identify with certain under our social clique. That's called sinas chinam, by the way. Break you up into social cliques. We spoke about that last Tisha B'Av. Right? Are we guilty of identity politics? Are we more narrative than results, like the Democrats? And we enjoy the narrative. We want the problems. Or there are plenty, perhaps there are many Jewish organizations. They're like the famous lawyer joke. Lawyer went on vacation. His kids ran the firm for a few days, and they tied up some cases that were left open. They thought Dad would be really proud. He got back, he started crying. I got Parnassa. I got liable for this case for 20 years. What did you do? A lot of organizations like that, they want the problems to not be resolved. So they could still do their activism, which they raise money for and take fat salaries for. We have to examine ourselves. We must examine ourselves, whether we are more narrative-oriented than results-oriented. Case in point, a lot of Jews feel bad for the African American community. If they are suffering from racism in any way, so of course we should feel bad for them. But the answer is not, therefore, to join the narrative of Black Lives Matter and defund the police. That's say, I signed a petition, showing support for the police. And a family member of mine said, "Chil Hashem, you're desecrating God's name. Time this to show support for the police." Of course, we should show support for the police. We need law and order. More police will save Black lives because thousands and thousands and thousands are killed by criminals, generally Black on Black crime, that the media ignores, right? Thousands, right? And put all the focus on this one Black man killed by one bad cop. And they're just raising money for it, raising lots of money, tearing down monuments. I'd like to meet the Matt guy they actually have helped. The Republicans want to run a bill. Some Democrats are blocking it because it's not good enough. Have the discussion, negotiate. It's not about, they don't want to solve the problem. They capitalize on the problem. But do we in any way, shape, or form do the same thing? Let's ask ourselves. One thing's for sure, even though everyone's scared as hell, we should not join the mob. We have to be like Avram Avinu in his day, right? Who stood up against the whole world. See if the mob is powerful, right? At this point, it's time for all Jewish organizations to call upon the OU, the Agudath Israel, everyone to declare support for the police, declare support for the Republican Party, right? And to meet with Black community members, conservative Black community members who want real solutions. And the real solutions start first and foremost in education, right? And this is what the title of this forum is, right? That I ask everyone, please Google ACLJ, American, Jay Sekulow, ACLJ. There's an initiative that will not only help the Black community, it'll help the Jewish people, also help all decent people, right? It is to fight for charter schools, right? Where all this leftism is coming by, which includes holding the Black people back, are the failing schools that are run by the liberals, where they're indoctrinated with the anti-American liberal perspective. The whole problem that we're facing right now is that the liberals have seized control of the educational environment, for the past 40, 50 years, since the 60s. They went into academia. They infiltrated government also, but mainly academia. And they raised a few generations of people that hate America and feed into the leftist agenda. That America is a horrible place, needs to be torn down, and it's the best place in the world. Narrative versus facts, because I'd like to meet the African that would rather live anywhere else other than America. I'd like to meet him. I'd like to ask him where that place is, right? Certainly not Africa, right? So certainly not any communist country, right? It's insane, but it's the narrative versus facts, which is the great challenge that we face, right? So first we have to make sure that we're not people of narrative, that we're living up to our mission of being Mamleches Kohanim V'Goy Kodesh, right? Being a truly holy and wise nation, real learning and real mitzvahs, as opposed to it being the narrative that we get high on, right? And we approve each other, give each other likes. Shouldn't be an issue of identity and pride. It should be results, right? And then when you get to heaven, they ask you really, how much do you really know? Karitza, Shanitza. They don't ask you what your narrative was and how you identified. They ask you, how much did you learn? And they test you. How much did you learn? What mitzvahs did you do? Were you honest in your business? They don't care about your identity or how you identified or what you ascribe to. They care about real results. That's why it's called Olam Emes. We have to hold ourselves to this standard, because our mission of being the chosen people is not a narrative, right? It's a mission that God expects tangible results, because we weren't producing those results, and we got chucked into this exile. We have to be really afraid of the mob for our lives. But the answer is not to submit. That's what the Jews did in Germany. Everyone, all the decent citizens, Germany used to be the most tolerant place before the Holocaust. Jews were streaming there from the east, but the mob scared everybody, and the Holocaust happened. You have to stand up to the mob. I mean, first and foremost, if we stand up to the mob for the sake of truth, we also hold ourselves to a stand of truth. We might merit to Mashiach comes immediately. But if not, you can't give in to evil. We have to partner with Black conservatives. And also, yes, we care about any type of prejudice, any type of racism, any type of lack of opportunity. The Black conservative leaders, Candace Owens, Larry Elder, Burgess Owens, right? And many others, they want real results, and we'll partner with them to bring real results. Now, the big and most major result that there is to get them out of those crazy government schools that they're forced to go to, that promote them not having families, having babies without a father, right? That hold them back educationally in all those failing schools. The African American children are not properly taught how to read and write. It just reinforced the victimhood, right? We got to get them out of those bad schools, which are not just bad as far as the reading, writing, and arithmetic. They're bad as far as the values that they put in their heads and the victimhood that they put in their heads. So go to the ACLJ's website and sign the petition, even make a contribution to promote charter schools, right? To free them. And that's where, we're suffering from this wave of leftism from all these millennials and Gen X people, right? Gen Z people, right? Because they were raised in these terrible liberal controlled schools. Let's, get our fight for our rights that our taxpayer money should be used for charter schools where have quality education, really good education, and help everyone get good education and also good values, not liberal left-wing values. Those failed policies that have ruined the African American community and have ruined all the cities that they control. Right? Let's join the charter school revolution, and that will help us. We know because charter schools, are not funded the way they should be with taxpayer money, right? That's why we sadly have to pay an arm and leg for tuition to get a Jewish education. We fight for charter schools. We could have a charter school, a Jewish charter school, that gives a perfectly excellent Hebrew and English education. We'll have to work it out so non-Jews may end up applying. I'm not afraid of that. I'm not afraid of that because the Jewish education will be so solid. I don't believe any harm will come if, for some reason we'd have to accept a non-Jew, who insists on going to our school. By the way, that's the law anyway now. Non-Jew, I'm sure, could sue any yeshiva for discrimination if they refuse to accept it. I'm sure of it, right? So it makes no difference. If it's an excellent school, it's an excellent school, right? And if non-Jews end up attending, right, first of all, it'll be affordable education. If non-Jews end up attending, they'll get excellent Jewish values and they'll be B'nai Noach, wonderful Nohites. I'm not worried about that, right? Let that not stop us. There's joining the charter school revolution because that's something solid that could be done to save this country in general, and the African American community in particular, because the youth have been brainwashed. The African American community in particular has been brainwashed. Join the ACLJ's initiative to fight for charter school funding. And I myself am announcing on this forum tonight, I will be opening a charter school, probably not this upcoming academic year, but the year following, an excellent charter school for a very quality Hebrew and English education. I am studying the legalities of it right now. And anyone out there who knows about these things please reach out to me. You can reach out to me on the website, there's Ask the Rabbi, and let's do this. But education is the way forward. Education is the way forward in particular and in general. Do not submit to the mob. Seek out the Black conservative leaders, the Black Republicans, partner with them to not do narrative, partner with them to bring real benefit to the African American community and to the American people. Thank you very much, and I will continue to uh, periodically post right more installments over here outlining my educational philosophy and the curriculum that will be in the charter school that I intend to start for the 2021-2022 academic year. But of course, if we just do our job, like I outlined, of being people of results as opposed to people of narrative, and not being weak and submitting to the mob, but being like Avraham Avinu, who stood up against the whole world if necessary. Maybe in that merit, all this will be unnecessary, and Hashem will send Mashiach Tzidkenu, Tekef Umiyad Mamish. Amen. Chodesh Tov, everybody.